It's the most incredible feeling to be here. This is live.
Live.
Wild Earth takes you on daily intimate experiences in nature live.
This is a very, very different adventure, charged with emotion.
Join expert guides as they search for Africa's most iconic animals.
How awesome is this? She's coming right past our vehicle. Take a closer look here.
Oh, careful. Oh, no.
Ask your host questions and have them answered in real time. Join us live every day on Wild Earth. This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon and welcome to the western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park. There we have got 4 wildebeest that are waiting to enthrall you with their antics. This, of course, is your own very live African safari. Now, they're probably lying over there because it's not a very hot day. It's about 27 degrees centigrade out here, so they're enjoying the sun. And I think they're probably enjoying the fact that the dust is less tickly than the grass on their bellies, and so that's where they're lying. The dust also probably helps to condition their skins. My name is James Hendry. On camera today we have got Niels the Hood from Pretoria. And we're both enjoying ourselves out here in the magnificent wilderness that is the Western Kruger National Park. The wildebeest lying there on the road are not the only animals in attendance. There are a couple more wildebeest off towards the left, and there are a whole lot of impala as well. And like I say, it's not very hot. It's a gorgeous afternoon. There's some nice thick clouds floating by, which is keeping the temperature down. A breeze blowing in from the northwest. And it's very pleasant to be out in the wild, and I hope that we'll be able to transfer some of the feeling of being out in the wild to you wherever you happen to be watching. Please do talk to us, send us any questions that you'd like to, using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. Otherwise, if you're a youngster, you can send us questions to the email address kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. That's kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Soon, we are going to enjoy the birth of the new impala, and all of those impala over there that don't have horns are females, unless they're very young males, and most of them will give birth in the next probably 2 or 3 weeks. And it's always a bit of a competition between guides at this time of the year to spot the very first baby impala. I have yet to see one, and so hopefully we'll be lucky in the next little while. It would be quite early now, but from now we can expect to see an impala lamb. The other exciting summer development will be the arrival of the very noisy bird called the woodland kingfisher. And it goes like this. It goes chip when it's here. And last year, I forget exactly what date it arrived on, but the year before it arrived on the 16th of November, I think was the first time we heard it. And so also a competition to see if we can spot or hear the very first woodland kingfisher of the season. They'll be coming down south as we speak.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve. Welcome to your very own live safari from the African wilderness here in Sabi Saint this afternoon. sitting on a temperature of 27 degrees 81 Fahrenheit. Kind of a little breezy, cloudy, but I can promise you it's not colder and it's not very hot. And this afternoon you're with Andrew, and I have Morgan on the camera this afternoon. This is how we're going to be taking you to your own safari. We came to this very beautiful mound with the visible of little creatures that is moving around there. Just see a little bit of a glimpse. That's a dwarf mongoose. And they're so beautiful animals, so small, but they live in such a small numbers of probably 15. Sometimes can be anything from 30 or 18 of them. And they're very social animal, dwarf mongoose. And these species of mongoose and the banded mongoose out here, there seems to be very much all get around, all in a group, but cooperate, hunting and also feeding as well, taking care of their young one. But for them, sitting on this mound is probably because of, I don't know, this is one of their chosen mind for them to be able to take a roost here for the night. Still quite early for them to choose mound, but it does happen sometimes when they are on forage from the early this morning until this time. They may actually be, it's going to be one of the mound that they have chosen. And it's kind of very interesting mound where it's on top is a lot of kind of brushes, green, and it's covered with all branches over here. So won't be any eagles can spot them from the air, because while they have a relationship, if they ever forage in the open, they have a relationship with hornbill, which is they work together and support each other life, where these guys give a lot of food for these hornbill to feed as a forage, disturb insects. Good afternoon, Rosalind. You want to know how many of probably young ones they have? So usually give birth to 1 or 2 and each time. But, you know, they kind of like very much some area depending on the terrain or kind of a weather climate where you can't find some area where it's actually green forever. They can breed any time. And out here there seems to be breed anything from November, December, February, anywhere there. And this is how they do. But it's so cool, there are system that's going on. The whole group, there's a 2 member which are very important, alpha male and alpha female. So these are the one that mainly take care of the whole group, able to develop. And the whole group gone bigger in size sometimes. So I'm going to move on and look for something else for you guys. While I'm doing that, I'm going to be taking you over another live safari.
We were going to move on from our wildebeest as well, but we thought, shame. They're so rested and so happy there, lying on the road in the dust and the comfort of the dust, that we thought, we'll just sit with them for a little bit longer. And while you look at them, I'll tell you that I can hear another migratory bird, the European bee-eater, above us going broop, 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 broop. They'll be so high up that they'll be almost invisible. And in fact, I think their call is so faint that you won't be able to hear it. We're often asked what time of the year is the best to be out here, and every time of year has its advantages. And at this particular time of the year, I love the feeling of expectancy that there is in the atmosphere. It feels like, it always feels charged, like it's going to rain. There's a sense of excitement about it as we move towards the summer. Everything's getting green and the air is waiting for the first really big proper storm of the season. We've had some rain, but no real big storm. Well, we have had a few big storms, but we're expecting a lot more now. The expectation of the new impala lambs and the other young animals. And it's just a wonderful atmosphere, especially on a day like this when you've got these clouds floating by, but it's still warm. Very pleasant to be out here. Birds singing, insects out, dung beetles, flies, cicadas, grasshoppers. It all feels so new and so alive. You can see the wildebeest. They don't seem quite as excited by the atmosphere as I do. They'll also be about to give birth. Remember, the cows are probably mostly pregnant. I don't mean in a way that means they're partially pregnant. About 70% of them will be pregnant, and they'll give birth also around about when the first rains come. Righty, I think we are going to move from here, and we're going to head off towards an area where we think Shadulu the leopardess has got a kill. Not a kill, a den. Rosalind, how big is a wildebeest? Well, a wildebeest, I'm not sure what you'd compare it with. They weigh about 250 kilograms or so. And so I suppose you'd liken that to the size of a pony, roughly. I'm just trying to think what kind of a pony. I suppose a pony of about 14 hands. I don't know what you know about horses, but 250 kilos, 550 to 600 odd pounds is the mass of wildebeest. Some of the bulls are a bit bigger than that, and some of the cows are a bit smaller than that, but that's about average. So not huge, but not small either. And I used to say to people that they were quite slow, because I assumed that the fact that they had that sort of sloping back, which allowed them a lot of stamina, made them slow. But I recently read that in actual fact, calculations show that they are one of the fastest antelope. So I think that that's quite impressive. And one wonders, therefore, why it is that they've got that sloping back, or why it is that everyone doesn't have that sloping back if it doesn't seem to make the animal slower. I suspect it's probably got to do with, for a zebra in any case, the fact that the hind quarters are a very effective defensive mechanism, so they can kick very powerfully.
Well, a very warm welcome to everybody to Tswalu Kalahari, and what a beautiful scene we have here, something that we don't see very often because they don't like to stand still, is the Chacha Baboon. Not this baboon. Hello, good afternoon, my name is Kyle, and behind camera is David. Good afternoon, everybody, welcome. How fantastic is that? It's something that we don't have the luxury of viewing quite a lot. They are fairly skittish of our presence. And so when we get a bit close, they tend to book it very quickly. But obviously the distance we are from them now, they feel comfortable. And so that they're not running away from us. There's some more right on top of the dune there for us, Dave. Yeah, it's just fun. There we go. Oh, the guy's busy finding some shade. Look at that. All busy sitting under a tree and having lunch. So this is the Chacha Baboon, a very large primate species, the largest primate species that we have in South Africa. And they can be found in fairly large troops. That's the group terminology that we would use. Anywhere up to 100, 200 at times. Here on the western section, a little bit smaller. Obviously, scarcity of food is a thing where that drops the density within group animals. So the density over here with animal or group size are fairly small in comparison to other places. So yeah, they would be averaging 40, 50 in a troop, and very, very social animals. And they have a great advantage, obviously, opposable thumbs. If you take a look at how animals survive out here, you need a little trick up your sleeve. And having the ability, the strength first and foremost that they have, opposable thumbs and very hardy stomachs, they can eat toxic plants which would obviously be fatal to other animals. So they really have a big advantage, and that enables them to range out into these western, dry, arid regions of South Africa and Southern Africa. And obviously being in a troop, that's safety in numbers, boy. That whole troop will not hesitate to defend an individual. There's a few little ones. Let's see if we can see it. So those are quite big ones there. Those might be males. They form a very unique social structure called oligarchy. So basically an elite group of males. Yeah, Sassy, you are thinking on exactly the same lines as David and myself were sitting here, and we just made the comment. The colour schemes of Tswalu are just like nowhere else. The blue, obviously with the sky, the red, orange earth, and then the green foliage is just constant eye candy. It gives me goosebumps looking at it. It's like something of a dream, almost. And then everything changes late in the afternoon when that colour scheme starts to be manipulated from the setting sun. Now it's quite harsh, it's quite bright, but still very, very beautiful. So we're out in the east this afternoon, folks, and we're going to be bumbling around here. Obviously, we're in an area that does have the presence of lions. We've found some older tracks. So maybe if we bump into some fresh tracks, we'll track them. But we're just going to scratch around here and see if we can find some insects. There's a lot of butterflies at the moment, utilizing that raisin bush, that little bush with the yellow flowers. So we're going to see if we can highlight one or two new species there for us. And then hopefully along the lines we can bump into something a bit bigger. Yeah, the cicadas singing in the distance. And we've got a nice gentle breeze, just keeping things just cool enough. So everybody finding a bit of time to take it easy there. Very big canines, obviously used for defense. And they've got very large canines, some of them larger than that of leopards. They've been known to kill leopards as well through certain areas. And they seek refuge, so this is their daily routine, is going out into the open plains, doing a bit of foraging, and then finding refuge in the mountains. That's where these individuals will rest, and they'll rest at spots which are inaccessible to leopards and lions. That's obviously the great advantage of having that opposable thumb, that they can scale and climb vertical surfaces and find ledges to sleep on. Obviously, safety is number one when you go into bed. We're going to send you off to another incredible location, and we'll see you shortly.
A warm welcome to all our viewers to a very humid and beyond Ngala, where we are currently busy following the tracks of a young lioness. And we know that she's been seen a little bit further away in the Timavati riverbed this morning. She is the lioness in this area with the smallest cubs that we know of at the moment. And we suspect that she's walked over towards where two other members of the pride have been mating for the last couple of days. Now myself, I'm Yapi, and behind the camera we've got Owen. And we're driving a road on the southern side of the riverbed, and hopefully we'll have some luck this afternoon. Now, it's a little bit more open now than it was this morning. This morning it was almost raining. We had a little bit of drops coming down at some point, and we were not having a lot of luck. But then later in the morning when it warmed up, they found some of the cats out. And due to this weather, cats are actually really active, so they tend to move during the middle of the day. Now, I had reports from one of the staff members that there were lions calling from this direction where we are at the moment, and we're hoping that maybe they might be out somewhere in the open where we'll get to see them.
Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to you in the Masai Mara of Kenya. We have a lioness sleeping in amongst the rocks. My name is Tim, and behind camera we have Big James. It's about 29 degrees. That's why you see that lioness upside down, raising her feet up, about 84 degrees Fahrenheit. It's been a nice place for these lionesses because I think they had something big to eat because they haven't left here for about 4 days now. So this morning I just saw them just close to the forest edge, but I think as it warmed up they came up here. But I think it's a little bit cool because of the breeze. It's a little bit raised here, so at least she's more cool than maybe sleeping under a tree down there. We have about 6 lions around this area who haven't left, and I've seen some vultures just on the forest edge. Could be whatever they were eating has not yet been finished. This is the lioness with the collar, and this the same lioness that we saw mating with Olalashe and the younger male that always accompanies Olalashe. I think the mating season has ended for her, and in about 3.5 months we'll be able to see some cute cubs from this pride, because about 3 lionesses from this pride were mating. So if they all succeed, they're successful to give birth, because a litter consists of about 3 cubs, so it will be about 9 cubs in this family, which will be super nice to see. I'm not sure where the rest of the males have gone to, Olalashe and the young one, but soon we'll be trying to find them. Because of the intruders who came in here, it has made everything go or disappear. So lionesses, when they are fully fed, they can at least spend about 12 to 13 hours a day sleeping. Big males can sleep about 16 to 18 hours in a day sleeping. That is when they've had a full stomach. Zay, thank you so much for your question. A lioness will only come into estrus to mate once every 2 years. So, considering that they've brought their cubs to weaning, so every 2 years they come into season. So, the only time that a lioness can come into season before the 2 years is if they lose their cubs. So for example, she gives birth to 3 cubs, and then before a year they're killed by another male intruder. Then after about 3 to 4 weeks she'll come back into season. So generally lionesses will come into season about every 2 years. can tell this is a nice spot for this lion because even our present does not deter this lion. He is very, very much relaxed.
Good afternoon, everybody, and a warm welcome to Anteater Private Game Reserve, where this afternoon we've come out in search of impala lambs. We believe that someone saw one this morning, so myself and Craig have set out for them. But this afternoon we've just found the wildebeest for now. My name is Matt, and behind the camera we've got Craig. And yeah, from the wildebeest to a little bit further left of them, we do have a herd of, or a harem as they call them, of impala, with a couple of females in the front and then the male walking on our second from the back, but no lambs there as we have a closer look just yet. So that's what we've set out for this afternoon, and I'm not sure if anyone else has shown you an impala lamb yet, but that's what we are going in search of. And we had about 20 mils of rain last night here in Phinda, so quite a bit of water left in the ruts on the road, and that's gathered in pools now, you know, all over the place. So no real need for these animals to go to the larger watering holes. And both this wildebeest and these impala just enjoying the greenery out here. It's a beautiful view here, not too far from the lodge. But with the wind coming up, they're all sort of going from thicket to thicket in a little bit more sort of protection from the wind. They're asking what the wildebeest's main threat is. Here on Phinda, it would most probably be lions. There are an abundance of wildebeest, so they will typically look to hunt them. So I'd say their biggest threat is lions. But now coming up to this time of year when impalas have their lambs and wildebeest have their calves, then you open up the avenue for all sorts of predators, be it hyena, leopard, even a cheetah will look to take down something like a wildebeest calf. But this particular wildebeest bull is quite happy here. He out in the open can see things like lions coming from a distance and hopefully get away in time. And he's also got those impala just a little bit further off to his left to sound the alarm should there be anything of threat to him. Rin, you asking if wildebeest can sleep while standing up? I haven't personally seen one with its eyes closed standing up, but they do often lie down. In the heat of the day, you'll see them tucked away in the shades of trees, or on a day like today, which is a little bit overcast, out in the open when they lie down together, all sort of tightly bundled up in their herd. But no, I've never seen wildebeest sleeping standing up. This particular chap we know is not sleeping because he's got his head down grazing at the moment. The impala also, they have stayed within that tight little ball since we got here. Safety in numbers with this wind that's starting to pick up. A little bit of rain starting to fall here on Phinda as well. But the wind is what will keep them together like that, and any funny noise, they'll all pop their heads up to see what's around, or if there's a threat that they should be alerted to.
Beautiful, thanks. So yeah, this is a very good time, especially with the rains, all antelope species. Sometimes they can get so much confused of not trusting at all. we came to Bevershoek Dam, sitting right here with these beautiful hippos. Every now and then popping out their nostrils. Quite playful when we get here. And when you don't know there's a hippo here, and you almost go inside to that water hole, then of course there is one. Because at night they do come out. Just when the sun goes down, they also just prepare themselves and they move out of this area. Got off, look for a grazing area. And sometimes they move in such a number, especially female with a young one, which I think there is one of them here. It's all different age. Probably for them to be able to sit around here the whole day, finally get hungry. And once it's dark, some depend, some others they just come out early, some come out late. Those are very slightly shy of coming out while still alight. They stay in the water until it's completely dark enough for them to be able to get off here. Look at this little, they're very shiny looking animals, especially when you see them outside of the water. But it does their skin, it's very... Cameron, good afternoon. So you want to know if the hippos swim? No, they can actually go down, submit down, and also pop on the other side. So they do that, but they don't really swim like we would see on Krog does that. No, they don't. So what they do, they go down, submit like that, and sometimes they touch the bottom. That's what they do. The bottom of this lake here, it's a lot of a path where they move around when they want to. When it's to go down, they're able to appear from the other side. And then if it's clear water, I doubt this is very dirty, then you wouldn't see anything from the bottom. But sometimes they create a little bit of their own path in this heavy mud underneath of the bottom of this lake. But of course they're very quick if they have to get out or get into something immediately, and they're quick enough in there. So I'm gonna leave this hippo here. I'm looking forward to find any cats. So while I'm doing that, I'm gonna be taking you over another live guide.
Going up the dune, we were stopped dead in our tracks by the sheer beauty of this tree, and then also the striking contrast of the foliage color with the backdrop of that big, beautiful blue sky. This tree sitting nicely here on the dune crest is a silver cluster leaf, and how fitting. You can see its silverish appearance. It actually has layers of tiny little hairs that actually reflect light. That's a way on how you can minimize the overall exposure or pressure from the solar radiation. But it is just such a striking and beautiful example of simple but beautiful things here on Tswalu. They're typically found on dune crests. They like dune crests, and they also like drainage lines, these silver cluster leaves. And this is quite a large one. You can find them up to about 7 meters tall. It's quite a large tree. And it's also used in pole making. It's used in making of handles for tools. It's overall a very versatile tree. It's a fairly hardy wood. It also has some nice properties that can be used if you are sick from coughs, diabetes, you name it. Obviously that would be the bark or the leaves or roots that can be used. But it's just a very beautiful contrast against that beautiful sky. So the root is obviously a remedy for stomach ulcers and stomach problems. So the root will be taken out and actually utilized. David, what's that bird right in the middle there, moving in the middle? Do you see it there? There's a small bird moving right up in the central part of the tree, in the crown. There, it's moving to the left now. Let me just look. There's a tiny little bird there, folks. Go up a bit more for us. Up. Right up to the top of the ground. And then just to the left. Oh, well, fantastic tree just to sit down and just absorb and appreciate.
We're driving along looking for things of the summer. I was hoping rather to find a leopardess in her den site, but I did not manage to do that. But what I have found you is a lion's eye. It's not a real lion's eye. It is not the actual eye of a lion, but a flower that is a similar colour to the eye of some lions, and in particular the eyes of the lions belonging to the Nkuhuma pride. There it is. Now, I always have to learn every year the difference between this and another flower called the roadside pimpernel. And they look almost identical, but their leaves are not the same. And unfortunately, I have a very small brain. And because I have a very small brain, I'm unable to remember one year to the next whether this belongs to the roadside pimpernel or whether it belongs to the lion's eye. But I think that this is the lion's eye. In honesty, it's a 50% guess, but very similar. Okay, it's a very pretty colour. Now, lots of flowers are coming out at the moment, and this particular flower has got no scent. And so whatever comes to pollinate it, whatever insect it is going to be using sight. And I don't know what, I've never seen what pollinates this, but I suspect it's a butterfly of some description. And I've been reading a lot lately about how it is that different insects and different creatures navigate and find the things that they need to, and it really is absolutely astonishing. But in the case of the pollinator of that particular flower is almost certainly the use of eyes, which are able to discern landscape features.
Welcome back to the Mara. We've left our lions who are looking very sleepy. So I'm trying to head to the marsh where I can see lots of elephants. This morning there was a very nice activity where you saw lion, saw elephants. The elephants are super exciting because of how many families they're all walking towards the marsh. It's getting dry, so elephants will be walking down to the marsh every day early in the morning. So it's a nice place to look for elephants before they start heading back to the edge of the escarpment. So I've been
Sorry about that in Masmaria. So we are now checking the northern boundaries. There was actually lion tracks around here, but it doesn't look fresh. But I'm just checking because maybe it looks like from last night. So you never know. And then some of our colleagues haven't been actually out yet on drive, so I can't confirm whether there was tracks this morning in the area that the guards have been following up. But the lines that I had was actually out of reach from us. But could be, different pride where there's the Lamati, I think they moved from the last position yesterday. And if this is another pride, I'm not sure if they have probably split between, and the other one moved this way and the other one moved the other side. So I had was only 2 lionesses this morning been seen up far east of here. So I'm going to carry on, take another 2 tracks on the front of me and then have a look on the other side. If these tracks is new, then we're probably going to find out from there And this is how we're going to maybe find them. If it's last night, then looks like they have a lot of movement, because then where we left them, it's actually far east from here. So it happens that they move west and the other one, or maybe they've been disturbed, which I'm not sure why, because they have a male there yesterday. But well, maybe we'll find out what has been happening. I just checked the dam there with the hippos, and there was no tracks. Maybe they came drink from the eastern side. Liam, good afternoon. You want to know if there was a Kalamba update? Negative so far. And I was also thinking of her. That's why when I checked the northern boundary, hopefully I was maybe hoping to come across her tracks, because these days, this is where she stays up north. And since I think she was last seen around here, and she was in actually returned, she hasn't yet returned. And the last visual, I think what I heard was a cheetah pan, which is on the eastern side of here, far east. And if that happens, maybe she get hooked up with maybe one of the male. Since she's in kind of much independent these days, we're looking forward to see what she's going to offer on her maturity. Look at these tortoise right there. This is actually the best things this time of year, and this is what you often come across. It's called Leopard Tortoise, but it's not actually yet fully grown on its probably forage. There are summer active creature tortoise, most land tortoise, except for these terrapin, because then you find them in a very dirty mud and things like that. So these are very much vegetarian, feed on plants, some mushrooms, gain some calciums. Sometimes they would feed on a hyena poop, which is purely white, and for them to be able to gain their calcium, build their shell strong, because that's just going to off-road like this. And that shell is very hard, where you find sometimes, you find a leopard, lion, it will spend the whole day trying to get into these creatures, both sides of where these legs sticking out. But once this leg is folded back in and the head folded back in, and then of course then is it's there, it's actually meters out of reach for the cats, except for the ground hornbills that we have in this area. They will spend time hunting for tortoise, any size of a tortoise around here, and this bird will go easily around, getting into where the appearing of a leg is actually a gap or the spot position where they can get these beaks of them and get hold of the meat, since they have well built up with a very sharpening and kind of a rough beak. So this is how this tortoise is going to be moving around. Hopefully survive, still a lot of chance that rain will come. I'm on my journey again just to check the boundary. While I'm doing that, I'm going to be taking you to another live station.
Oh, sorry, my apologies. A little ant-eating chat that we're enjoying here. This is a little male, and we can see that due to that a little white patch. If you look just where the shoulder would be of the bird, you're going to see a white mark. And that was a clear indication that was a little male. Female lacks that little white patch. And from the bird to landscape, look at that. David giving us a great view of the topography Topography means the layout of the land which we can see. And look how amazing that is. Beautiful cumulus clouds. Eventually all those clouds will amalgamate, bunch up into one another and form cumulonimbus, which is obviously your vertical towering, stormy, rainy clouds. But for now, those clouds are actually giving us an indication that we're having fair conditions at the moment. Each cloud formation can give you a telltale sign, so to say, or an indication of weather approaching. So these clouds over here, a clear sign that we have fair and clear conditions at the moment. But just really nice to see these big, beautiful, fluffy items in the sky. And look at that topography, ever changing. Got a spark-heeled lark calling close by us here. And it is cooking at this point in time. The wind has dropped and we're sitting here and slowly are melting, but that's fine. Jenna, it is beautiful, and nearly 4 years onto Tswalu, it still is captivating for me. Every time I look around, it's almost like I'm seeing new parts of Tswalu. It's forever changing and forever stimulating. So the low density of animals that we have here in these western regions are okay, because we have this continuous stimulation of the landscape. Really beautiful. And obviously the topography allows for different animals to inhabit different heights. Height is a very, very important thing when it comes to animals inhabiting. So you only find certain animals inhabiting those mountainous areas there on the left, and then you only have certain animals inhabiting the sandy parts. So very, very important to have multiple habitats to increase the diversity of the ecosystem. That's wonderful. So from here, I think what we're going to do is we're going to go visit a watering hole. So what we're going to be doing is driving directly due east. So the sun is behind us, so it sets in the west, and that shows us that we are going east. I mean, look at that road. We're going to go straight down that road and we're going to end up in a watering hole, and we're just going to take a little look-see around that watering point to see what activity might be there for us. Might be lion or some antelope, maybe even birds.
So, we still haven't found anything, unfortunately, but we have been driving along this very, very beautiful section of the riverbed, the Timbavati riverbed. You can see it's quite wide in these parts. There's some reeds around here, some cropped down palm trees, and beautiful high banks. Now, when one looks at the landscape, if you do immerse yourself in the landscape for long enough, especially in a wild area in the bushveld, then you start to realize how certain animals use this landscape. And one of the fortunate things about having such a high bank as the certain parts of this river is that it serves as a lookout. Now, in this particular area, it's also one of the few parts of the Timbavati that at this time of the day actually casts a shadow on the southern side of the riverbed. So because of that, it's not a bad spot if it's a cat that you're looking for. One of the other things is the points, the lookout points from those high banks. In 2012, with the last big floods that we've had in this particular area, that this river came down extremely strongly, and it actually changed the entire layout of the river banks. It used to be more gradual, like the bank we have off on the northern side of the river, or on our left-hand side, and the majority, or the part of the stream that was the strongest, was off to our right, and that's why the bends come in like this as well. And generally after the rains, that's where the puddles form.
Welcome back to the Mara. My mission has paid off. I was coming to look for these elephants. Oh, that's nice. It's a bathing time. It's very nice how this matrix just came to the mud and all of a sudden everyone followed. Just watch as how the rest of the members just came to join. Very nice. So the youngsters learn from watching the adults as they maneuver every day. So be it from mud bath, grazing, and also drinking. They just learn from observation. How cute is this? So nice. That cooling is actually very important for these elephants because when they sprinkle their face or their bodies with mud, it helps them cool their bodies about 8 times better than them cooling with only water. So the matriarch just came there and just touched the water. That was a signal for the young ones to actually cool themselves because the adults never touch the water. Bruce, yes, we'll be having a handful soon, you know. This is very, very nice to see. And look at them, they just walked close to the matriarch. You know, the role of the matriarch is very important in these families because without her, then these families will be having a big problem because from when they grow to when they become independent, it has to be very important to follow the matriarch's command. I'm still going to watch these cute elephants as they enjoy that spraying of the dust on their body as I take you over to another live location.
Welcome back, everybody, to And Beyond Punda. We're with Tim speaking about playful baby elephants, and here with these you can just see behind the lioness on the right one of the youngsters or the cubs of this pride of lions who are typically quite playful. Now on this cooler afternoon, a little bit of rain starting to trickle down. They are sound asleep, but they can be quite playful in amongst themselves. But we haven't found them for a day or so, and just, where they are, quite a thick area, quite hilly, so they're probably tucked away out of sight and out of mind during that rain that we had, probably hunkered down, and now that there's been a bit of a gap in that weather, they've come out into the open, and a lovely vantage point that they've got up on the hillside here, looking back down behind us where things like nyala, warthog, and the likes could be lurking, and that's what, you know, these two moms who, with 5 youngsters, would have to hunt quite regularly. And you can see those very ominous looking clouds rolling in behind us on the right hand side. I think where we are, yeah, there were just a couple of drops of rain, but if it does get worse, we'll probably hear it and see it before it hits us, luckily. But now coming back, and I thought it had pricked its head up, that youngster on the right. When we arrived, oh, there, the other lioness is now up. And the youngster there, now you can see 2 of the youngsters behind the mom on the right. The one keeps twitching its ears, obviously has those biting flies irritating it. Shreyas, you asking how often big cats chew grass? Well, you know, they'll do that just to help with indigestion. Maybe with things like lions who have such rough tongues, they, when feeding, might consume quite a bit of fur from maybe nyala or hair from a wildebeest that, you know, they can't pass through their system, so they'll eat a little bit of grass then. So it's not something that they do on a daily basis, but it will help them with indigestion to help bring that up. And these moms now, and I think, yeah, we're just lucky with the cooler weather that they're out in the open, because, you know, this time a couple of days ago, the afternoon temperatures now at 4 o'clock would still be high 30s, I'd say, around there. And then that humidity that, you just can't escape the heat would have disappeared. So to see them out in the open, out in a spot where they can spot their next potential meal from a distance, they're quite happy up there for now. And we're quite happy to sit here and watch them. You can see now that lioness on the right is fast asleep. Just the one youngster has its head up having a scan around. And then the rest of them, there were 3 other youngsters that are missing, are all just a little bit further left of that lioness that you can see, who's obstructed a little bit by that tree.
Welcome back to the Mara, where you can see another older elephant female. He's walking with her calf, and you can see how they are protective of their offsprings. Just look at how she's getting close to us. Very, very nice. So this grass is just next to the road. They never grazed. And you can see if elephants want to come and cross the road, they always touch or maybe want to grasp a little bit of the grass just close to the road. So these older females have to make sure they protect the calves, especially when they're crossing the road. See, she's slowing a little bit and then wait for the calf. And then off they go. You can tell because of her size, she's actually sister to the big matriarch. Always, the matriarch will accompany themselves with the big blood relative like the sister. So let's say, for example, if the matriarch dies of old age, she might be the second in command. Leah, thank you for your question. A trunk can hold up to about 5 to 10 liters of water. So elephants need to drink on a daily basis, but in times when they don't get to drink, maybe 4 or 5 days, on a sitting, they can drink up to about 170 liters. But normally, when they fill up their trunks, it's about 5 to 10 liters. They're very intelligent, you see. She's dusting off the grass and then puts it in the mouth. Very, very nice. So it's that time of the day when most of the elephants are walking back from the marsh. So I can see there's another Joshua, thank you for your question. So normally when we were aging elephants, especially the young ones, so elephants calf that are under 1 year and below, they're always called underwalkers because you see them able to walk under their mom's belly or their mom's stomach. So those are elephants below the age of 1. So when they're about 2 years, almost 3, you can see the tusks protruding just from the lip. So you can tell by looking at the size, especially those young ones are actually under 1 year old. So, but the ones that we just saw here were about 2.5. These others that are about 3 and 1 year old. Look at that. So I might try to get just a little bit closer to that family. Very, very nice. So we've seen about 6 families actually walking out of the marsh. So we just drive slowly to see that another beautiful elephant family. As I try to position myself to see that family, let me take you over to another live location.
Welcome back, everybody, to some very flat cats. These lions now have all put their heads down, and typical lion behavior for the majority of the day, up to around sometimes 20 hours a day. They will be, as you see, they're fast asleep. And as I say that, one of the youngsters has now pricked its head up at the back. And experience goes to show there that they're not as experienced as the older lionesses, will not capitalize on that rest and conserve their energy for when it's needed under the cover of darkness to hunt. But now wide awake. We are quite close to one of the busier roads on the reserve. So passing by vehicles often catch their attention from where they are. Maybe a couple of birds. If I keep quiet, you might be able to hear dark-capped bulbul. There's one at the back calling now, that, which is a black cuckoo, which sounds like it's saying "I'm so sad" as it calls. But that too is calling, and perhaps we've got 1 or 2 twitches in amongst these lions. But again, when I say that, they've all now flopped straight back down, so maybe not as interested in birds as we are. But with passing by vehicles coming along and 1 or 2 other vehicles coming to join, you never know, they too might prop their heads up again to see what's happening. And it's amazing just how much that white of their underbelly sticks out as they lie out in this greenery. Trevor, you're asking how lions and other wild animals spread across Africa. Well, certainly not as much as they used to, that's for sure. Now, with developing cities and the likes, we've had to put fences up to protect such animals, like these lions here. So these ones don't really go as far as wide as they used to back in the day, but certainly ones up in areas where Yapi is, like the Kruger National Park, they've got 2.2 million hectares to roam free. So I can imagine some of those never see a fence in their life and roam exactly like you say. So nothing really restricting their movements there. But yeah, because of developments of cities and countries, we've had to protect our wildlife and put fences around them. So yeah, they don't roam as far as they used to. There's a little bit of movement now just behind that lioness on the left-hand side. You can see a little bit more white. There moves one of the youngsters off to the left-hand side. Let's see if it doesn't come out behind the back of those little bushes there. I just saw it, moving ever so slightly back to the left-hand side. And much like domestic cats, lions will often get up and walk away to use the bathroom when they're lying in an area like that, or together like that. And once they've done their business, they'll come back and then flop back down. And quite typically flop back down on one another. No sort of personal space acknowledgement there whatsoever. And that, I wonder if must have been one of the youngsters. Still can't really get a glimpse of that one that moved off to the left-hand side. Cameron, you're asking when the best time of day for hunting is. Lions, being nocturnal, will typically hunt under the cover of darkness. That being said, they are opportunistic cats, and they never know when their next meal is going to be. So, on a cooler day like today, if the opportunity presents itself and something comes their way, they will definitely look to hunt, and that's when you'll see them going from cats that are fast asleep to wide awake at the drop of a hat. So yeah, being nocturnal mostly at night, but not to say that you don't see them hunt during the day, especially when the weather's like this. It's cooler, a little bit more windy. Animals, their prey animals will tend to go into areas that are a little bit more sheltered from the wind, where they can hear a little bit better for things like lions coming their way. But yeah, doesn't look like there are any signs of hunting from this lot for now. But I might just stick around with those ominous clouds coming in. We might see them look to move, so I'm going to see what happens here.
So welcome back to the Mara, where we've come to the second elephant family, and they all seem that they're hanging around that one spot there. Although sometimes their preferred diet is fresh grass, you can see sometimes them browsing on leaves and twigs. So when it's drying up, you find that when elephants move or walk from one area to another, they always get to those rich areas with thick vegetation like forest and bushes, where they get to enjoy the browsing from the leaves, which is very important also for their diet. So luckily here we have the marshes and the swamps, so they walk on a daily basis towards the swamp. But you find that in due course, these swamps, the vegetation there ends up becoming less. Only that we have adequate rain that happens. Maybe we have two very good rainy seasons. We have the long rains and the short rains, and because of that, elephants within this ecosystem get to enjoy. But you find in other places where it's very dry and hot, like in the northern Kenya, you find elephants will travel long distance for food and water, especially when their environment becomes a little bit drier. And sometimes that is what makes elephant split up. You find because of the environment condition, these big families end up splitting. The ones with the calves, very small ones, they end up being left behind by other blood relatives and move over to another area, of course being led by another sister who becomes the matriarch. So the matriarchs play a very important role, especially in these families, because they have that map in their brains where they walked from when they're little calves to adults. So they can also lead these members of their herds to those various places where there's adequate food and water. So very important to have matriarch, especially older females that have those memory and idea of where to lead them to. See how slowly they change direction. They were heading towards the road and then suddenly they all decided to walk to the left. That is just a communication that went through. Let's take to the left and carry on grazing. MGN, how wide is an elephant's body? I would say about 3 meters apart. So from the head towards the back, I can say that is about 3 meters. And height-wise, I can say the females can be about 3.5 meters, almost 4. But the bulls are always larger and bigger than the females. So we've seen a certain behavior in elephants here. During the migration, when there's lots of wildebeest here, then elephants tend to move away. So elephants generally are not territorial, but however, each family clan has their specific home range and sometimes may overlap, like just what we saw right now. So this is a home range that is always overlapped by different elephants' family that always come here to graze, to feed, and because there's enough food in the marsh. See that little one enjoying the grass there. Very, very nice. I'm going to stick here with this family as I take you over to another live location.
Beautiful. So we come to this position now. Have to come back to the west again, kind of like south of Juma Camp, direction of the Treehouse Dam and Philemon's cut line. It's the direction we're at right now. So with these beautiful buffaloes, and it looks like they're right now, as you can see, it's quite a lot of brushes, a lot of bushes where they are, and they're probably just resting here for the day, and they'll probably gonna start to move soon. I think it's getting in a time where they'll probably need water, where I think since the treehouse dam's not far away, and they're probably gonna head down there for a drink soon. It's so better, this animal, they move in such a number, and there's a lot of grasses that take place already. It's green everywhere. So there's no actually a lot of competition between other species in terms of grazing, but they like to form their own number. They don't form, different a number with the other animal, but once for all I seen a rhino with them, which it was so nice to see rhino in the middle of the herd, and there was nothing going on there, but that's not actually often. So we're looking at the cows, 2 cows over here. One has got a oxpecker, red-bulled oxpecker on top, just flew off. They look healthy, shiny, blackish coat they have. This is something to do with the healthy. They feed well, get waters everywhere. This cow, she's chewing cud. That's what makes them a true ruminant. As you saw there, she stopped now. She probably regurgitated since she swallowed the cud that she has done chewed already. Buffaloes, most of them like domestic cows. Good afternoon, David. Welcome to your very own live safari. Sure. So you want to know how often do they get in terms of age? Well, there is some like regular cows, 25, 26, get up to 30, but then they're very old. It's roughly 25 for such a buffalo's lifespan. You hear them like when they all push one another in this group. So they're pushing one another, that's what makes them sometimes can be very noisy little. And they can attract or easily be attracted by attracting some of the dangerous animal, which is going to be the animal that hunt them, which is the lions. Since also they use a lot of a sense of hearing to actually able to hear what's available for them to hunt. So she's just going to go over this wood. So they have a lot of problem with flies as well. These buffalo flies, they're actually very strong in biting on buffalo. You see them follow rhinos, they follow any wild animals, including the cats, these buffalo flies. And sometimes they can do such a very painful bite on this animal. So I'm going to take another moment looking at this buffalo, see if they come out on the other side. Otherwise, let me take you over another live guide.
Welcome back to this wonderful and ancient land. So we're talking about the mountains and a different type of habitat that they obviously provide. And these mountains are inhabited by multiple organisms, especially a very distinctive organism, but they could actually refer to as a superorganism because the vast amount of individuals within one colony. And this would be the housing made by these amazing creatures. This is a termite mound, and this would have been made by a species called the snouted harvester termite. Very, very large, very, very hard. This is just an accumulation of soil, a bit of wood and grass mixed up with a bit of saliva. these insects have created this enormous structure. I mean, this is a very large one. Within each species, they make their own distinctive mound. And this is where these animals would be throughout these hotter periods of the day, especially this species. This species only becomes active under the cover of darkness, and they actually use underground tunnels that have been excavated to basically move from this mound out in order to collect vegetation. They feed on grass. And if you think about these incredible creatures, they have an amazing and remarkable symbiotic relationship, and that is with bacteria and fungi inside, not only in the gut, but inside these beautiful housing environments. So this mound has been created to protect these beautiful creatures, not only from the harsh African sun, but from multiple animals which eat them, from bat-eared foxes, aardvark, pangolin, you name it. So many animals rely on these creatures for invaluable food source. And this is rock hard. I mean, it is like rock. If I had to punch this with my fist, I'll more than likely break my fist before I break this mound. This mound, if you think about it inside, if I wish I could show you guys a photo. This is a very intricate, interconnected system of tunnels that move down into different chambers further down in the mound. And this mound is being created to allow these animals to inhabit this area, but also for them to house their symbiotic partners. The temperature within this mound has to stay at a constant, and it does that all year round, right through summer, 45 degrees during the summer periods, and then down to -10 in winter. They have to regulate the temperature inside here to house the precious fungus. Without the fungus, they would not be able to break down this hardy material, cellulose. So this symbiotic relationship has been going for a very, very long time. It's by far one of the oldest symbiotic relationships we know between two organisms, which is pretty remarkable. And how they found that is obviously an animal, a termite in amber, encased in amber, and they actually did a little bit of a test, a little bit of carbon dating test to find out how old this relationship really is. But what is this mound doing is creating a safe haven for these amazing insects, and as well as creating a stable environment. So you'll have a chamber which is housing the king and queen. There'll be different castes or different roles played by different individuals. You'll have king and queen, you have workers, and you have soldiers. And their morphological structure is evident to be what caste they are into. So soldiers will be obviously a little bit more larger in size. They'll have massive interlocking mandibles. You'll find king and queen. The queen is a very large individual. She'll be the largest individual out of all of these individuals within the termite mound, and her main role is just to produce babies. A single female can lay and produce up to 25,000 eggs a day. Just imagine that, 25,000 eggs or babies a day. And obviously this mound providing a perfect safe haven for these creatures. We have even copied the intricate system on how efficient this mound keeps its temperature and regulates itself. We have, in Africa, created some of the largest malls and used the basic principles on how this termite mound works to cool down a mall in a more natural, more sustainable manner. So there's holes dotted all around this mound, and what these holes are doing is basically allowing the air, the hot, stale air from inside, to be sucked and drafted out of this mound so that it can be oxygenated and obviously in a nice, comfortable, stable manner. This one, very distinctive. You can see this nice dome-shaped appearance, and we only find these species in the mountains. We don't find them out in the flats or in the dunes. They do not create these mounds anywhere else but on the mountains here on Tswalu, which is really amazing. This is one of two species that we have. So this is the snouted harvested termite, and then we have a subterranean individual that operates at the daylight hours, which is called the northern harvester termite. But they possess a special pigment that allows them to operate in the daylight hours, just like this. These guys don't operate because they don't have that pigment that doesn't allow them to operate during the daylight hours. They'll actually get sunburnt and they won't be able to operate. So they operate at nighttime, and it is just an amazing, amazing structure. And one thing that these guys do is make all of this happen. If you think about all the nutrients, where does all this stuff go? These guys break down the material, and all that nutrients and all that material is leached back into the soil, actually enriched
And we have finally managed to come across a female leopard, which, as you can see, is taking a bit of a rest. And notice that she is breathing quite heavily at this stage. A rapid movement of the belly, and her head is tucked away in the long grass. There we go. Right over there. Now I know it's quite tricky to see. You can just see part of the ear. And it's flicking. And at this point she is probably smelling like dead impala. And she's very, very well hidden on the ground where she's most comfortable at this point. At least that's why I think she would be in right there. You can see the horns and the impala. And I have to say, boy, did she do a good job at cramming that impala into a nook there. Head down, the neck bent. You can actually see behind the horns where the ear has been torn off. What a awkward position to be putting that impala in. Now I can see the rib cage is exposed and the backside. There's quite a bit that's been eaten off this impala. And it's in a sjambok pod, not very high off the ground. One might ask yourself, what about hyenas? And I do think that if they knew about this, they probably would be able to get to it, actually. And this is the second time I've seen this female do this. The other time I also found a carcass, also a young male, crammed in. Daniel, how long do leopards sleep every day? That depends. With a leopard specifically, especially in weather like this, they can be actually quite active. I know, generally speaking, you tend to hear that the big cats sleep most of the day. I guess lion do a little bit more than the leopard. In an area like this where there's not conflict of interest between man and animal, the leopard's actually quite active during the day. She was actually feeding for about an hour just before we arrived. And from this morning, from what I heard, it looks like she's had quite a bit to feed of that carcass. Now, she is a relatively large female leopard. And she is also... she also has two little cubs somewhere nearby, which we haven't had a glimpse of yet. And I'm pretty sure that they're hiding extremely well at this point. They're not too used to vehicles. We haven't had the pleasure of seeing them that much. So we're hoping that a chance like this, where we have a carcass and the mother relaxed, we might get them used to the vehicles over time.
So just looking and finishing off here very, very quickly, these superorganisms are very important to the ecosystem. So what they do is take all the stuff that's on top and put it back in the soil, actually enriching and making it more viable for everything else. So not only doing that, but also being a very important food source for multiple animals across the board. Things like bat-eared foxes almost solely rely on species like this over here. So they do somewhat superficially resemble to that of ants. Their body structure is slightly different. So with the insecta order, they fall into a group called Isoptera. Obviously their unique body shape, their biology, and their movements is a bit different to that of ants, but really remarkable structures. And if you ever get the opportunity to be in the African bush and get up close and personal with these things over here, do so. It is remarkable. And we are so lucky for little organisms like this that drive and make this ecosystem more functioning in a better aspect. Really remarkable. So from here, I think we're going to leave this beautiful termite mound. We're going to continue on a little bit northeast. We're going to hopefully head up to the pan and we're going to see what activity we have of tracks over there. Hopefully some lions, maybe some nice birds come into the water for an afternoon drink, and it is very special. If David can just give us a little roundabout, you can see how beautiful this place really is. We'll see you shortly.
Hopefully they do find some animals down in the waterhole, hopefully. Just to move a little bit, since I follow these buffalo herd, and there seems to be now close to that treehouse dam, but most of them milkers are all scattered all over this bush, and then some of them might go drink and some of them maybe not. Just see one of them all in these bushes here. But, the water, it's actually first things they're going to do, go drink before they move away, because somehow they're going to have to find a place where they're going to just take it easy for the night. Once it's dark, going to make sure that it's safe wherever they are, just to make sure every one of these young ones got to be right in the middle for a safety. In terms of emergency, there's a lot of bulls in this group. This is where they take care of all herds. So if there is an emergency or lions trying to hunt them at night, these bulls are the one that are first going to deal with these challenges. And then everybody from there, they will be all alert, stood up and group up, look out. Everybody now has a work to do. And that's how they do in a group. And not easy animal to deal with. They are very tough animals, especially they can fight lions, can fight anything. Whoever you are in front of these animals, they are dangerous. Even this cow, when you look at her, look very sharpening horn. Lisa, good afternoon. Not at all. They don't have, you want to know if they have a poor eyesight. Their eyesight is so brilliant. And then so that they are type of animal when they're not too sure about it. Usually when they look up, this is one of their conflagrations, when they're not too sure about what is in front of them, what they can hear. And then they pretend like they're looking right up in the air, but gives them advantage of see far. But they have a very brilliant eyesight, these animals. Even at night they can see. But the problem in these lions, just like a robbery, they know how to deal with this situation when they aim to hunt prey species. They have to actually position themselves and then to aim for a target. Since these animals, they all take it easy, not knowing what's going on eventually. They get surprised, and then this is what happened. Usually, such a pride in this group, pride will aim for the weakest, also, these young ones. Quite a lot easier for them to actually grab, and they got to make sure once they do that, they have to do a lot of damage for that animal, because a lot of time this herd will turn around and then go to help, and when they do that, they come in such a number. They all surround. Eventually, if the lion, whatever, how many of them are in there, if they don't get out, one of them would get killed. They're so dangerous animal. When it comes to help each other, they cooperate very well. Of course, that one, she can't stop looking at us. Probably not about fear of us, but maybe not trust, or maybe now in this wood here, I see a lot of footstep. Looks like some of them are running on the far side, but I cannot tell because in this thicket. So I have to get out here, get in one of the road, see what could be going on there. Maybe that's why that one, she's probably hearing some of their friends' footstep running on the background that side. And then I don't know what could be. Usually, was no such a lion tracks or anything in this area. But, by surprise maybe. I'm going to go there, have a look. So let me do that while I'm taking you over a live guide. Move around.
So welcome back to the Mara, where I've come across a big family now. This is about, I'll say 33 elephants around this family, which is very nice to see how they're slowly walking towards the escarpment. Now when they're feeding like this, sometimes they'll eat fruits, seeds, and especially those seeds that cannot germinate very well, very, very much well under digestion or after they've gone through the elephant's stomach. Some fruit, when they're consumed, they become very well dispersed. So you find sometimes people might blame elephants for breaking down trees, but they help in the seed dispersal, especially the acacia. We've seen lots of places where we have acacias in this ecosystem. The seeds cannot germinate properly, and when they pass through the gut of these elephants, then it softens them, and the seeds get that outer coat and are able to germinate very well. So when you look at elephants when they're walking, they disperse big chunks of dung. So those dung might have seeds, and during the rain you find that some seeds or some small shoots of trees shooting from the elephant dung. It's reckoned that an elephant will disperse about 100 kilos of dung a day. So assuming we have one elephant in a square kilometer, that will be about 37 tons in a square kilometer. So that also adds nutrition to this ecosystem. So we find that the dung is used as manure in how this generates, eventually becoming a good manure for the pasture here. So grass and other seeds that germinate get very much of a manure from the elephant dung. And of course we have other creatures like the dung beetles who use the dung very much. We have birds that forage on the dung. We have baboons that also forage on the dung. So without elephants, we'll be having a very big catastrophe when it comes to this environment destruction. That is why I like calling them the keystone species. They pave way for other animals to walk through and go and eat. Wow, look at those two. Very playful. David, thank you for your question. An elephant calf at birth will weigh about 60 kilograms. I've heard some people talking about other kilos, but preferably I like saying they can weigh about 60 kilos at birth. Alhambre, thank you for your question. Female elephants never leave the natal herds. Only the males do, and the teenagers especially, when they get to about 11, 12 to 15 years, they'll start leaving the natal herds to form bachelor groups where they join other big bulls. But females generally never leave the natal herds. At one point when females will leave, it's when a family will break up. So the sister to the matriarch takes the blood group of her family, and then they all leave. But most generally, females never leave the natal herds. You can see those two are young males, and boys will always be adventurers. Daniel, yes, elephants sleep standing up, but sometimes you can see elephants lying down to sleep, so they can do both standing and while sleeping. I've come across elephants not once, not twice. So when I got to a place where I saw them, about 20 of them just lying down, so they can sleep standing and they can lie on the ground to sleep. See, the cattle diggers are so much enjoying following these elephants. I wonder if we didn't have elephants, how this environment will be. You can see birds take advantage of these elephants. We have baboons, we have other creatures also, even man. Because if it were not for the elephants, we'll not have as many trees dispersed in our environment. As I watch this beautiful family, let me take you over to another live location.
So, we're still here with this female leopard on the ground. And she hasn't even lifted her head, even though there's a slight breeze blowing at the moment. If you look at the way she is breathing, it looks almost uncomfortable. Now, she has been eaten quite a lot, and part of eating quite a lot is also digesting quite a lot. Now you might ask, why would this leopard be down on the ground when there is food up in the tree? Where in a tree it's also safer. I think it's just because she is uncomfortable. Eating all that meat makes her heavy. It's easier to come down to the ground and digest. And in the tall grass in the shade of this sjambok pod, I don't think there's too many animals that will pick her up on first glance. I'm sure also she's not fast asleep. She's probably well aware of her surroundings. You can see she's actually slowed down her breathing now. So I'm thinking she's a little bit more comfortable now. Maybe it's the wind that's cooled her down. Joshua, do all big cats climb trees? I have seen every type of big cat that I have seen attempting to climb a tree. But none of them climb as well as the leopard. Some of the smaller cats, but out of the big cats, the leopard and the jaguar is probably the most prolific tree climbers. I know that in some areas you do get lions that climb trees. I've seen in East Africa a whole pride of lions up a big fig tree. And that's more to get away from biting flies and cool themselves down. And also depends on the tree and the animals themselves. Like sometimes they do adapt in certain areas where they are more comfortable to climb. But generally speaking, lions are not nearly as agile as the leopard up the tree, and therefore the leopard is the most effective climber out of the big cats. The lions are quite heavy. I've even seen a cheetah up fallen over trees, but they don't really climb them. They don't have the tools, so to speak, like the leopard and the lion. Their claws are semi-protractable, which means that it is always visible. And that is because they are adapted for running. And it's to help them with traction. This is amazing. Like, even though I can hear quite a lot of flies around, and we saw her moving just now, rubbing her face, but she is a little bit more relaxed now. Maybe she might even move in a little while. So, black widow spider, do we know which leopard this is? This is the leopard we refer to as the New Zulu female. And she, in the last couple of months, she has had 2 new cubs, which we haven't had the chance to see as regularly. I'm sure they've helped her eat this impala. And there must be somewhere here, probably just watching us. Now I can see her breathing's picking up again. Imagine how full that belly must feel. Who knows when last she did have a good meal, probably quite a few days ago. And who knows when she will have another one. So she'll probably eat as much as she can. She needs to be healthy. She needs to have the energy to hunt. She needs to take care of 2 little cubs, whose appetite is also growing day by day. At some point, she's going to have to hunt more and more. And I'm sure that'll take the toll on her. But for now, I think she's just going to lay down and relax in the shade.
Oh, he is very thirsty. Or she is very thirsty. It is very thirsty. Lovely black-backed jackal as soon as we arrived here, coming to the watering hole. Quenching its thirst is what it's doing right now. So seeing them solitary like this is not uncommon. Foraging is normally done solitary. You can also find them in pairs while foraging. And on its route, it's decided to have a little drink here at this beautiful watering hole. Wow, look at that. Unbelievable. Very cunning little animal, this. Has to be one of the nicest animals, the most exciting animals to watch for me in the Kalahari. They're just very active. They've got a certain type of spunk about them, and they're not scared. They do what they need to do in order to survive. Very resilient, and they will take opportunities as they present themselves. These animals will seize it. So even now it would seize an opportunity, because this is where you would have certain birds nesting, like blacksmith lapwings. They would nest close or near to the vicinity of water. So this animal could be walking and stumble upon the nest. It'll eat the eggs or the chicks. Opportunity seized. and then looking like he's late for something here. Very efficient little trot. I like to refer that to as the canid trot. Very efficient way of moving, conserving energy but also moving and getting to where you need to go to. But watching these little animals is a very important thing because they can give away large carnivores very quickly. But you can see his behavior is fairly relaxed. He's just kind of looking for his next potential meal. Yeah, the Egyptian geese busy alarm calling. Yeah, and look at the topography once again, folks. Beautiful banding and folding of these mountains is just fantastic. I see David's going to give us quite a nice view now of how the sun is illuminating a bit of the grass and just looks very beautiful. We're going to send you off to another incredible place and we'll see you when you're back this side.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm just talking about the beautiful landscape of the Kalahari to scenes here of also a somewhat beautiful landscape with a couple of giraffe that we've managed to find in the distance. Those lions ended up sort of lying flat again, and in the distance we saw this lot who are quite happy to browse nearby us. These giraffe, and I just want you to have a look at this Ficalia, what was formerly known as an acacia back in the day, that this particular giraffe is feeding on. It's got some seriously sharp thorns on it that tongue is able to pluck and manipulate the little bits of greenery off with no problem whatsoever. Have a look at how specific they are with what little bits they eat, and that tongue is extremely tough, long and tough, odd sort of 30-40 centimeters that wraps around that greenery and then plucks it right off. And hidden behind this tree to the right of this particular individual that we're watching are another 4 giraffe that have now gone out of picture, but this one's particularly enjoying this tree this afternoon. We spoke about those ominous clouds. There were the distant rumbles of some thunder in the background, but this giraffe, just enjoying the cool afternoon. And what giraffe will often do, and especially in the mornings, and now with this little bit of rain, there will be a lot of moisture left on this greenery that they're busy eating, so not very necessary for them to go down to a watering hole to drink. So that's where they get a lot of their moisture from. But if, now we're coming into rainy season, prior to this, if they hadn't gone a couple of days without getting much moisture, they'll head off to a watering hole, and that's when you get to see them drink. But this one spent quite a bit of time here and is now disappearing behind the very tree that it was feeding off. There, just a little bit further off to the right hand side, you might see the legs of a couple of zebra, and there were 1 or 2 impala with them as well. They're coming through the gap now, are those zebra. So I might just creep slightly further forward for you to see if we can't see the rest of these giraffe that were just slightly further ahead. Oh, there we are. There they are. That's not a bad roadblock for a Monday afternoon traffic here in Pinda. But them together with those zebra and impala, who I see now as well, are quite happy to browse and graze this afternoon.
Look at this, folks. And this one, Mr. David here behind the camera has this one. We came up here to the pan, found a little shady spot just to get away from the sun for a little bit, and David somehow spotted this bird. He slowly pointed, he's like, look up in the tree, dude. Oh, hello, my friend. Beautiful little pearl-spotted owlet. Busy taking a snooze. This is what they would do through the daylight hours, is resting like this. And you can see how efficient the plumage is, the pattern of the plumage, cryptically colored, just to allow this animal, this bird, to blend in to its environment. It's such a treat. There's the false eyes. Look at that, folks. Those black patches, referred to as false eyes. Obviously, the iris of the eyes are yellow, but they've got these two dark patches that resemble that of eyes. It actually looks like a beak there as well, oh my word. And that is there just as a tactic so that other animals think they are being watched, especially larger predators. Because being a predator, you want surprise. The main element is surprise before you make an attack. And those false eyes give the interpretation that it is watching. So like my mother would say, I've got eyes behind the back of my head. Really remarkable adaptation. And it's sitting within a very large camel thorn here by this pan. What a lovely sight. Look at that. Absolutely blends into that environment. Sure. It's a very big camel thorn. Also put this chap over 100 plus years easily. And obviously it's a perfect spot for a little owlet such as this. Jenna, they're so small, you are correct. To give you a better indication or better understanding of how small it is, it's only at about 19 centimeters in terms of height, and only weighs at about 70 odd grams. So it's a tiny little owlet in comparison to, that big cousin that we've been seeing, that Verreaux's eagle owl. But quite a vicious little raptor, or predator, let's say at that. It's always such a treat to see them. We hear them quite a lot, and they've got a very distinctive call. I'm not going to make the call now, because obviously I'll be disturbing the bird, and we're not here to do that. It's really nice. So just like most owls, it's got that ability to turn its head 270 degrees, and there's one or two anatomical or physiological adaptations that allow the bird to do that. So it's vertebrae, 14 vertebrae in its neck, and then there's also certain parts of its neck that allow the head to be able to be rotated on the axis like it does. So you think about our neck and our arteries, and you think about that little bit. If it turns its head on the axis, imagine the arteries getting tangled up as the bird rotates its head 270, and you'll find that within where these arteries are running through little almost holding plates that are large enough so that there's enough space the artery doesn't get pinched. Another adaptation and how it is able to turn its head right around. Also its position, how it's set on the body as well. And unlike us, we can only do a little rotation. Really special. So we're going to sit by this pan for a little bit longer, see what else comes here. Hopefully this chap wakes up for us and becomes a bit more active.
It's going to be the same good idea here, sitting in this very beautiful waterhole, treehouse dam. We left our buffaloes in this wood, northern side of this dam. Come down to this to join the hippo, but there's a lot of noises in there, and I don't know if they can arrive right now but this hippo is very active, this male hippo, every time yawning like that, just because maybe we're around. This is one of the warning they can give. It's a very small water hole here, so anything come to drink, most especially cat, and they will be pretty much give a lot of warning like that, yawning, maybe make a lot of noises as well. Chevy, good afternoon. Welcome to your lovely show. So you want to know if the hippo will give birth out of the side of the water or inside of the water. They do that on the bank or outside of the water. Yeah, I've seen actually not at giving birth, but just after giving birth. And the female, she was very aggressive. And towards us, we were so far away, but she wouldn't trust at all. So they mainly give birth outside of the water, but anything from maybe 2-3 hours probably lead young one safely into a shell of water. This bull actually very playful today. A lot of time when we come down here, all we see it's just a little ears and nostrils sticking out. So yeah, they give birth outside of the water after gestation period of 7.5, 8 months. See how it does that with this little stumpy tail he's got. So defecate in the water, capable of doing that, flapping around his tails, scattered all over his back. They don't defecate most like other animals do, especially male. And or even in the water, they do that because they're used to it. When they're outside of the water, this is how they advertise their own territory, middens, or wherever they go. They just make sure they defecate towards the wood, so that dung would remain stick on top of this wood. Probably do that every 3 days or 4 days. Maybe every now and then, depend if it's a rain, come down. A lot of these scent marking chemical animal they do are washed off. So they have a lot of work. Sometimes delay even those cats on hunt. We know they gotta hunt, but sometimes when they worry too much about their territory not safe from the other neighboring cat, they were able to reactivate their scent in order to keep it safe. And after they complete whole boundary of territory scent marking, and they will probably going to take it easy or focus on other work, which is hunt. See this actually teeth showing up in there. So when they're outside of the water, this is where they're mostly dangerous, because then they're vulnerable. So all this killing they do, it's all about their self-defense. And they're well designed with this prominent kind of a tusker. They got 2 of them, 4 of them from the top and the bottom. And then most of the 28, they are premolars, which grind whatever they eat, grasses. And they just use a lot of muscles on their mouth, lip. And that's how they graze. But the molars only chew a bit of them and swallow it. They spend a lot of time in the water, and the skin is very well soft after that. But you see, they have the skin is actually, the whole skin is all glandulous, which is little holes, secrete a little kind of a bloody sweat. But, you know, from distance, that's why when you look at the hippo, look like very sometimes pink, because of these kind of sweat chemical that come out, especially when they're outside of the water for quite some times. They secrete that just to keep the skin safe. Or at night, it's all moon and all just deadly quiet. Temperatures drop down, so they don't have to worry too much about getting burned. So I'm probably going to leave this hippo, see if these maybe buffalo change their direction, move on the other direction, see if we can hook up with them again. I'm going to be taking you over another live guide again.
Back to the mara where we are still with our elephant families here, and you can see that mother is trying to nurse 2 calves. How interesting is this? You can see the younger calf and the older calf all wanting to drink. Very cool. So they stopped here because it's a little bit chilly. They can enjoy that breeze as they're grazing. But then I think we have another family just down there. I don't know what's happening because they've all stopped and they had some trumpeting there. So I'm not quite sure what's going on. Sometimes when younger bulls walk into families like this, the matriarchs and the older females become very much aggressive towards them, and they actually want them pushed out, and that maybe might be the problem. I tell you, it's a baby boom for elephants in the Mara. Every family that we get to see has calves, not one, not two, some have even 6, 10. I think that should be the last family to walk out of the marsh. You can see they're still wet, like the big matriarch there. You can see she's all black. It's interesting how all these herds are dispersed. So we have that family, we have a family that is close to us, and we have a family that is just to the left of our vehicle. And you can tell the role of the matriarch is very, very interesting because all these families have all regrouped together following their natal herds. So that is one family. And we have, thank you, Big James. We have this family that is close here. And we have a family that is farther in front of them. And we have just the family that's next to us. Alhamdulillah, thank you for your question. The reason why we have elephants with different formation in tusk formation is because tusks are modified upper incisors. So just like our teeth, we have people that have dental problems. There are people who have straight teeth. We have some people who have crooked. And that's the reason why some people might wear braces. So just the same as elephants. So it's dental formation. Aaron, thank you for your question. There are certain signs that we always look for when you watch elephants that are almost charging. We look for the posture. We look if the elephant is trumpeting. So those are some of the things that we always look for, because sometimes you see elephants pushing trees. The tusk will be facing the ground, pointing the tusk, rushing forwards, and then the charge. So those are some of the things we always look for, signs rather, we always look for when looking for charging elephants. So you find that when an elephant is really angry, you find that they spread their ears, they stand tall, shaking the head, and then they start, the trunk will swing forward, trumpeting in an air blast. So, and then you find that the ears slapping against the body, throwing dust and branches to the object. So those are some of the signs that we always look for when an elephant is agitated. So just to mention a few. But these elephants look relaxed because that flapping does not signify any danger. Daniel, yes, elephants sleep standing up, but sometimes they can sleep lying down. But normally with a group like this, you find the calves will lay down to sleep, but the older ones will always sleep standing. It's interesting how these elephants walked from this marsh and came to this place and then end up splitting into 1, 2, 3, 4 families. Very, very interesting to see. You can see how slowly they are walking while the young ones are observing the older ones, how they pluck the grass. And the cattle egrets immediately. The elephants pluck the grass or they start moving. They run to that spot. It's because there's some insect that have been disturbed and that the cattle egret get that advantage. I'm sitting right in the middle of 5 elephant families. So I'm going to just hang around here as I take you over to another live location.
Wow, how lucky is that? Sitting in amongst of 5 different elephant families. Wow. This owl has just decided to wake up. You can see it's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. So just to touch back on that ability to rotate there, it obviously gives the bird a great advantage to look and scan for prey instead of physically moving the body, just rotating the head with on the shoulders. And why they do that is because, and you also see the animal like how it almost bobs or circulates its head, and that's because its eyes are trying to focus. Because the eyes are so large, they totally encase or totally fit the eye socket itself. There we go, that little bobbing. That's just him adjusting his eyes. Because the eyes aren't able to adjust and move, that's why this bird rotates its head on the axis. But the ability, the morphological adaptations that allow the bird to do that is quite remarkable. So if you think about our arteries run up the center part of our spinal column to our head. With this bird, to fuel those eyes, arteries run left and right to the eyes. And those arteries, if the bird had to rotate its head far enough, the arteries would pinch and obviously would block the blood flow to the organs. So to eliminate that, the arteries run through small holders, or almost like little tubes, and the tubes are wide enough to accommodate when the bird rotates its head that the arteries are not pinched. There's also a bit of slack, a little bit more extra give, so to say, on the artery. So the bird does make a full rotation. There's no way that it's going to cut blood supply to those big focusing eyes. A remarkable adaptation, and it, like I said, it would be a very cool party trick if we could do that, and being able to rotate your head 270 degrees on the axis. Beautiful little patterning as well. So this little bird will go after other birds, small rodents, lizards, geckos, chameleons, using those sharp little talons that you can just see there in view. And then you can see the beak is designed to rip flesh. So it's used as a tearing or ripping tool. So you can see that this bird is solely a little carnivore, raptor. Not raptor, but eating meat. It seems like it's focusing on a few birds that are flying just behind us. It's got its attention. Using those very powerful eyes. Acacia pied barbet, busy calling here behind us. Twee, twee. Sure, it's locked on. Oh. And so this tree would not only provide nice resting spots for these owlets, but as well as the nesting natural tree cavities that would be provided by this big, beautiful camel thorn. We're going to send you off and we'll see you later.
Mobile stations.
Here we have got a saddle-billed stork. A magnificent creature. It looks like it has a bright red traffic cone attached to its face. A beautifully decorated bright red traffic cone attached to its face. Now, as many of you will know, you can tell male from female depending on the amount of makeup they're wearing. And this particular one is a female. And you can see that because she has got yellow eyeshadow. There we go. She's a magnificent creature. They become more and more sort of bizarre and captivating the more you look at them. The shape of the beak and the way the beak attaches to the front of the face. Their strange little eyes. Just astounding that evolution has given us a creature that looks so. Normally they're in pairs, so either this one's had a tiff with her husband, or she is still playing the field, as it were. She has not settled on a man. Now, many of you will know this too, I've been reading a book about navigation, and I'd like to share the bits and pieces that I read, A, so that I can tell whether I've understood what I read, and B, so that I'll then remember it. And storks, as we know, are very good migrators, a lot of them. This particular one doesn't migrate a great distance, but it looks like, although there are still many, many, many mysteries that surround how birds migrate, it would seem that there is a large combination of factors, and some birds seem to use olfaction, some birds seem to use the stars, and some birds use landmarks, especially when they get close to where they are. But most astounding is the birds and other creatures that seem to have some kind of geomagnetic sense that they really don't understand fully yet. And what is more astounding to me about it is that it's often not learned. So that geomagnetic sense is basically an imprinted map of the geomagnetic signatures that exist around the world. So, for example, with some of these birds, if you take them away from their normal homes, at normal migration time, they'll head in the correct direction. They won't just head off in the direction they, for example, if they're programmed to migrate southwest, if that's the normal direction, and you've moved them off towards the east, they will adjust their direction accordingly, which is really quite astounding. And one of the very interesting things is that with cuckoos, remember, I've often said that I find it absolutely amazing that cuckoos can find their way back because they don't have any parents. It would seem that that ability to navigate is augmented, or the sense for navigation is augmented by them actually following conspecifics on a migration. So if you take a Jacobin cuckoo or a striped cuckoo, Lavallian's cuckoo that lives in this part of the world and often overwinters here for its first year, when they do finally migrate, although the sense to migrate is innate, and although they never meet their parents necessarily, here is a striped cuckoo right here, just landed on the tree in front of us. How very convenient. Can you see it there, Niels? It's probably behind this bush. He's just over the top of this fallen buffalo thorn, but I can't move because he will move. But he's there, I promise. That's him. There we go. Well, at least we've seen him. Anyway, it would seem that cuckoos like this often follow conspecifics when they migrate for the first time. Goodbye. And then in so doing, they learn the route, they learn the landmarks, and they can come back the next year. Some animals, especially those animals that have no parental care or attachment to their conspecifics, are able to do it otherwise. Yuvashwa, no, I don't think storks fight with big animals unless big animals are trying to eat the stork. If a big animal is trying to eat the stork, then I suspect quite strongly the stork will fight with it. But not by default. They don't seek out a boxing match with an elephant. That would be suicidal. I think what we'll do from here is head towards where I believe Sebwick Mark II has been born and see if we can't get a view of the little owlet. It will be quite fun. Right, Niels, on we go, I feel.
Welcome back, everybody, to and beyond Pinder, where we have found two very large and what looks like this particular chap a little bit upset with us. The wind's blowing from us to him. Buffalo bulls, who at this age are just too old to keep up with the rest of the herd, can be quite sort of temperamental and aggressive. And I think with our scent or smell of getting blown from us to him, he's just lifting his head like that to try and gauge what we're all about. A couple of red-billed oxpeckers that have just flown off, the one off to the right-hand side, but this one's in quite a nice view, and you can see he's starting to lose a little bit of hair on his back. Those ears are also a little bit weathered, but that big boss that they refer to on the top of his head that protects his head, and a really impressive set of horns, this particular individual that we've got here this afternoon. They've got three very acute senses, do buffalo: their eyesight, sense of smell, and their hearing. Daniel, you're asking how long buffalo horns can grow. From end to end, I'd probably say, from one side to the other of his horns, maybe close to, if not a meter, but they can get quite a bit bigger than that. There are those really big buffalo bulls whose horns sort of droop down a lot lower than their ears and then curl up. Some are missing their horns, so they've just got what looks like a helmet, but they can grow quite a bit longer than you saw this chap here, and that's all got to do with their genetics. But now that he's happy with us, that we're keeping our distance and staying where we are, to put his head down and carry on grazing. Buffalo are what they call bulk grazers, so they just consume grass. But there you see as he walks off quite lethargically to the next patch. Roy, you asking how we distinguish between male and female buffalo. What I just pointed out to you now, the boss or the horns is probably the most obvious thing to look out for. The males have that really big boss and set of horns, and the females have a very thin set of horns on top of their heads. The younger ones are obviously a lot trickier to tell apart. Then you'd have to look in between their legs for the more obvious signs. But yeah, the older ones you can typically see, like this larger individual had that very thick set of horns, or boss as they call it, is the easiest way to tell male from female. Got a couple of giraffe making their way towards us as well. Now it's starting to get quite dark as well. Those ominous clouds that I spoke of earlier are, if I ask Craig to pan out a little bit or zoom out a little bit, you can see now just starting to creep over that mountain. Have a look at what's coming our way, which we are most grateful for this rain. I mentioned earlier that someone had seen an impala lamb for the first time this season. We searched high and low, but sadly came short with our search of an impala lamb. But these two, with their heads down, just enjoying the cooler weather. They will often, during the heat of the day, be tucked away in a bit of a mud wallow, which there will be quite a bit of now because we had an odd 20 mils of rain overnight. And now you can see both of them in picture. Will go cake themselves in mud, and that form of spa treatment for what the red-billed oxpeckers otherwise can't help them with ticks and parasites that will, when that mud dries up, they'll go rub themselves on a big stump or a tree or the likes, or a rock even, to try and rid themselves of those ticks. Almost feels like the calm before the storm here. The pressure has dropped significantly, the winds died down somewhat, and I think soon these buffalo will be rather wet and drenched in water. Kalpa, you asking how to prevent a buffalo from charging you. To give them their space is a good start. You saw how that buffalo was looking at us initially, just sort of sizing us up and making sure we weren't of any threat to him. But now they're probably their most vulnerable when they're like this, because there's just two of them. They don't have the safety of the herds like the others do. I mean, there's just these two males here. And for us to try and prevent that, we know these particular old bulls will be maybe a little bit more grumpy than others. So to give them their space and let them carry on. They won't go out of their way to charge you unless maybe they've lost a fight, or there was a video doing the rounds recently where there was a pride of lions trying to jump on the back of a buffalo, and it happened to come across a safari vehicle, and I don't want to say charged, but it lashed out, sort of tried to flick, and I think it was just trying to flick one of the lions off and happened to catch the back of the safari vehicle. I don't think anyone was hurt in that. But yeah, in terms of preventing them from attacking, I'd say if you gave them their space and respected them, they will leave you be. These two are quite happy to just put their heads down and graze this afternoon in the cooler weather out in the open. I just kept quiet briefly to hear if we couldn't hear them plucking that grass, but we couldn't. might see if there's anything else out and about now. We are in an area that's relatively good for cats. I know there was, I think, a leopard seen here this morning, so I might just carry on and see if we can't find a surprise around one of these corners.
It's always nice watching buffaloes, but I don't recommend walking on foot close to buffaloes. But here we have elephants still, and they look like they're just enjoying the grass. Slowly just coming towards the vehicle, and then they disperse. It seems like they're all now heading towards the escarpment, which is a very typical behavior that we observe on a daily basis here. There's some younger bulls within this herd and small calves. So I'm sure those young bulls, one day in future, they'll be able to leave these herds. So the young males that are within this herd will pass from this society and walk into a different society, where juveniles graduating from adult to adult male society. So those juveniles will learn how to conduct themselves in a new order, how to fit into the male hierarchy, how to deal with the mask, and also to behave well when they are within the older bulls. Because when the teenagers get to about 11 to 12, they always walk out of these herds and they will join big bulls who will teach them the social etiquette on how to mate, how to walk from one area to another. So once they leave the natural family and join the bulls, so the bulls sometimes, always rather, accommodate them because he's solitary and he has that mentorship to deal with the younger upcoming bulls. So those young males, previously we've just seen them, they were just sparring and fighting, which is very important. Leonard, thank you for your question. So, how we distinguish males from female elephants is generally by looking at the size. So, the width of the trunk is actually important to notice that bulls have bigger width of the trunk, touching from lip to lip. They're always taller than the females, about 4 or 5 feet taller. Sometimes you find that females have rounded heads, while bulls have about muscular squarish heads. Their mammary glands are very much protruding in females as opposed to those of bulls. They have a concave back, while those of females are a little bit flat. The lip base of where the tusk lives, just where the growth is from the lip, in the bulls is very much thick, while the female is thin. So the belly line you can see that belly line of that female is more horizontal, and the breasts are usually visible. But the belly line of the bulls always slope, and you can see the penile or the penis. The penis sheath is also visible in bulls, but you don't always see the breast. So this family has turned around and it just walked in front of us. Just look at how the calf is being placed. The female elephant there, make sure that she is between the vehicle and not vice versa. If the calf is around or next close to the vehicle, then they always make sure that they protect them. Look at how the rest of the family is just protecting that calf. So I'm just going to sit here and watch this family as they head slowly. It seems like now they want to move as I take you over to another live location.
Here we are at Sebwig Mark II. Now, I don't know how many of you were with us last year when we watched Sebwig Mark I, and by all means give him another name if you'd like to, or her another name if you'd like to. I don't know how many of you watched Sebwig grow up with us and then fly just before Christmas last year. It was just too special. Anyway, here is his sibling. And I know Lauren saw this little thing this morning. I have yet to see it actually move. So it is obviously just hatched. But I think watching this little one grow up is going to be very special. Hopefully. Isn't that too gorgeous? Its little black eyelids are the only things that distinguish it currently from a cotton wool puff. And its mother is now giving me what can only be described as the slightly evil eye. And if you are joining us for the very first time, this is a spotted eagle owl. And that is the female. The male will normally be standing guard somewhere around here or out hunting. Most likely standing guard. In the background, the Cape turtle dove. Proop, proop, poop, proop, proop, proop. And just for those of you who have forgotten, like me, in case your brain is a 1 megabyte brain like mine, and to remind you of the life history, well, the life future of this little thing. So its eyes are only going to open after 7 days. So for 7 days it's going to sit there with its eyes shut. Mum has heard something. It's a francolin, I think, just above. Yeah, there's a francolin just walking past in the sticks behind. I just think because she was sleeping and she just had a quick open of the eye to have a look. Anyway, 14 days feathers emerge through second pale grey down. Okay, so that's the initial feathering. After 2 weeks, it'll grow a bit more. Then by 21 days, swallows prey whole. And the female will only brood this bird, this is what amazes me, until it's 10 days old. Then she will spend less and less time around the nest. And the chick will leave the nest after 30 to 38 days. So in a month's time, that little chick will start wandering around on the bank over here. And then 40 to 42 days after hatching, 42 days after hatching in a raised nest. So say in a month and a bit it'll start moving. Anyway, we'll carry on our discussion about this life history a bit later.
And look what we have come across. Currently busy stalking the beetles and bugs and other insects in and amongst the tall grass around its den site. Ooh, looks like it's quite a large, if I'm not mistaken, a grasshopper. It looks delicious. If anybody ever wondered what baby carnivores eat, often this is how they supplement their diet. Is with insects. But no, I'm also not too sure whether it's actually grass that he's eating. Have a look at the ears pointed backwards, and he's picking his head up every now and again to look back in that direction. And the reason for that is because the parents are in that direction. But they are quite far back. And unfortunately we don't have a good view of them from where we are. The last time I saw this baby jackal, he had quite a round belly. And at this stage, he's probably still getting fed regularly, at least twice a day. His belly has shrunk considerably. And it might be that he's just chewing on some of that grass to settle his stomach. You can see there's a grass blade falling out of the mouth, so he's definitely, and he must also be quite itchy. He's come out of his den site, which is that eroded down termite mine behind him. Oh look, he's just spotted something, and I think that might be a bug. Back to eating grass. It's amazing how quickly a little animal grows at this age. He's just spotted two Swainson spur fowls off in the distance, and you can see now the instincts kicked in. I'm not sure what to make of it. But last time I saw this little animal was a few days back, and even back then, his back was not nearly as dark as it is today. So he's definitely developing at quite a quick rate at the moment. There we go. There's the spider hunting wasp back as well. It's a perfectly cool afternoon at the moment. It's not too hot. There's a slight breeze going, nothing too hectic to alarm this little jackal. Ooh. Maybe that's why he ate some grass, to help him digest. Tom, is it odd that there's only one? It is quite odd, actually. Most of the time I've seen jackal youngsters, it's always been at least 2, and they can go up to have as much as 8, with a lot of them usually not making it. In this case, there might have been more. We don't really know. They probably just didn't make it. So I'd say it is a little bit odd. But at least we know he'll get a lot of attention, and at least he doesn't have to share whatever food his parents will bring him, which adds to his chances of survival. You can see scratching right behind the ears. That's quite a vigorous scratch. Just look at that little face. Those huge ears, completely out of proportion. I think we can all take that as a clear indication of what sense plays a very, very important role. It's amazing to see how this little animal is not moving away from this safety of his den site. Even though he can see his parents off in the distance at some points and he sees them move about, he stays completely put until they come to him. He's quite itchy, and I think it's because of that termite mound that he lives inside. There's probably a lot of other little critters dealing it or sharing it with him, which means that there might even be some fleas or biting parasites. I know little jackals like this is often quite susceptible to skin diseases like, for instance, mange. In the past, we've had some serious issues with mange in the jackal, specifically in this area. Yogeshwar, at what age do the jackal pups leave their mom? Well, that probably depends. I think they do hang around for quite a long time, even after they've grown up, and they'll often help the adults forage for food. And you'll often see a group of jackals, maybe up to 4 or 5, which is actually the whole family, even when they're mature. And so exactly how long, I do not know. I'll have to have a look and see what I can find out. And all I know for this little one, it's going to be a little while longer still. He's developing his skill at hunting and foraging. He's already looking for small critters in and around this den site. But the real foraging techniques and behavior, that will only get taught later once he starts moving with his parents, which is usually at about 2.5 months of age. Which means that this little jackal's probably not even that old yet. I mean, these are more general guidelines than actual facts. There we go. He might throw up. I think that's exactly why he's been eating that grass, is to induce vomiting. There we go. Now we might lick it up. Oh no. Well, I think we're going to sit here for a while longer and see what he does.
Shame. I hope that baby jackal is all good. And visiting the waterholes, we have struck gold. These young sub-adult lions, taking it very easy here on the outskirts of this water hole. So 2 males and then a female just in the thick of things there. You can't even see her, she's so well hidden. But just to the right-hand side of that lion that's laying down is a female that's right next to him. Also a young female. Oh, lazy kitty cats. Come yawn for us? David is looking at you and licking his lips, bud. You can see they're very young lions, obviously the development of the mane and also how white their teeth are. Obviously with age, when a lion starts reaching, past its maturity stage, their teeth become quite yellow. You can also look at the nose. So these guys are about 2.5, 3 years old now. Oh, big yawn. Look at that. If they were a bit younger, their noses would still be pink. And you can see that chap that had his head up there, that nose is quite dark. So utilizing animal behavior is a very important tool for a guide. Knowing that lions love to hang out around watering holes, spending a lot of time in and around the vicinity of water because of the access to prey, that obviously gives us a bit more of an advantage at locating them. And that was our plan of action, and we stuck to it, and we found these beautiful animals. A bit of allo grooming, strengthening bonds between these two individuals. Obviously their bonds have to be very strong because from here on out they are going to be together. Partners in crime until they're eventually old enough to displace males and take over pride for themselves. Dave, how much closer can you get on that lion there, on his tongue? Let's see if we can see it. So obviously the lion's tongue is a remarkable structure, and if we get close you'll see that the tongue is laden with backward-facing keratin hooks. It's a very, very rough structure. So if you've ever been licked by a cat, you would feel that the cat's tongue is quite rough. And that enables the animal to remove debris and loose hair. But then also for these animals, when it comes to the last pickings of a carcass, especially these 2 males, they would find carcasses which have been totally depleted. And a little bit of meat that's still attached to bone, they'll actually use that very rough tongue to remove the last bit of scraps left behind by the pride. He's getting a full bath. So his brother must think he stinks, needs a bath. I mean, lions are fairly smelly animals. If you've ever had the privilege of getting up close and personal, they do have a certain smell. Yes, that's a great question. Can lions follow and lead up to leopards by following their scent? If it's recent, yes. So these animals have unique scent signature. If you look at how lions and leopards mark territories, they use urine, especially males and females, where they urinate and then they rub their back paws, to accumulate as much scent onto the paws and in between the little cracks, so that when they walk, that scent is taken further throughout the territory. But that scent can also be picked up by animals such as this. So if a leopard had to walk past here and a lion had to come right behind it, it'll pick up that scent, boy. I've witnessed a tiger following a leopard via scent from the tracks and as well as by the wind. When we were very lucky enough to visit a national park in India, we were so privileged to witness a leopardess actually a tigress stalking a leopard. So our scent is a very important thing, but can also give you away. But a leopard's so sneaky and so quick. Yeah, getting a full bath. Wonder if he wants a bit of shampoo there, a bit of conditioner. Yogoshua, can a lion protect itself from a sandstorm in the Kalahari? Yeah, absolutely. So if we had to have heavy winds, where obviously that produces then sandstorms, these animals will just seek refuge in thick bush, where for most of the day they would laze about. But if you look at lions, they are clever. They would use that disturbance as an advantage. So lions typically do hunt at nighttime. Cover of darkness is the best advantage that they have, especially through areas like this. Lions, obviously, hunting techniques vary across the continent of Africa. These individuals love to hunt at nighttime. They hunt early hours of the morning. But if we had to have a big sandstorm, they could see that as an opportunity and try and take a prey item down. And if they've got full bellies, they'll just seek a bit of shelter, tucking into thick undergrowth like you're seeing at the back of picture there. That'll be enough protection for a lion through a sandstorm. But very nice question. I've never thought about that. They're very resilient animals. You get lions that are what they refer to as desert lions that are found in Namibia. And I mean, they are some of the toughest of toughest when it comes to endurance, speciality, and especially with hunting ability. They are super skillful animals. And I mean, there it is barren and open. So lions in that area will definitely have to contend with a bit more vicious winds and sandstorms. But once again, they would find shelter if they felt uncomfortable. But if they close their eyes, they can lay flat. That sand will just basically run right over them. The fur obviously being a barrier will protect the body as well. Yeah. So we think these chaps are going to get up very soon. A lot of grooming. Lions normally do a lot of grooming, a lot of yawning, and then we have a bit of activity. We're going to send you off for now, and we'll see you back this side.
Beautiful. So we came into this position of Tingana, male leopard. He's just lying flat right here. So it looks like one of the guide called us. He's far north into Balusuk, and this is where he is right now. But looks like his journey, he was heading west. And then his tracks, and they've been tracking him from just north the Kalakupan there. I think he's probably been around there during the day. That's where they got his track moving in north from there. And now he just settled down. Probably just a little bit of a rest before he carry on. It's getting cooler for leopards actually. It's already cooling off, so for them to be able to forage, do their own things, it's special. It's a good time for them. You can see how he take a breath, very smooth, not painting at all, so it probably hasn't eaten anything big enough. So it looks like it's so cool that we've been actually seeing him for quite some time in and out of this area, cross into Juma quite a lot. But this is where he often stays up north, Bevelisuk, slightly to the east from here. Probably also in Manyeleti, also enter that side. A little bit of a problem with one of the male that they actually been giving each other a go, kind of a fight. Mlowati male, which he hasn't been in a sighting of him. I'm not sure when they got him, when he was moving, what he was doing, probably scent marking or probably we're going to tell about that when he get mobile again. No, he's like, no, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to lie right flat. It's quite a very comfortable grasses. Yogosho, good afternoon. Well, it's getting already sun gone for us, so it's a good evening from this site. So welcome to beautiful live shore. So you want to know, how do the leopards mark their territory in trees? We know they mainly spend a lot of time on the ground, move. Of course, they visit a lot of trees, dump base of the trees, bushes. Sometimes they go over through these branches of wood here along the road. Sorry, it's another car. I think it's going to move soon. And then on their face, they have a kind of like a gland, which is kind of like saliva. They lick or they always sweat. And then always when they do that, as they move, touch it to the bushes and it stick there. But again, along with spraying of their urine. Once they've done that, you see how they put their tail up and then they squirt a little bit of a urine. So they do that on trees, base of the trees, and sometimes they can do it on the ground by scratching the ground by their back feet, and they urinate and they go. So, if they ever do it on top of the trees, yeah, that's not very rare, but often do it on the ground. They can do that if they climb one of the trees that they found out maybe it's been another female there, because sometimes scent marking is all about not only the dominate, shows the dominate, but also to communicate with the female within the area where he is. But could be the female should be doing the same. That's how they were able to communicate and hooked up again. And it's so kind of very much clever animals. They don't really communicate always using sound, but through that chemical of spraying over, they were able to communicate very well and able to tell where their partner is or how far they've been or when recently they were around. So I'm going to take another moment to look at this cat here while I'm taking you over another live guide again.
Talking about communication, look at how alert this little jackal is now. You can see the ears up and it's staring in one direction, and the reason for that is the parents just called from that direction. I had a brief visual of the one coming this way, and then it spotted a hyena which came into the area, more than likely because they were actually calling. And you can see this little one, which the hyena is unaware of. There we go, like way in the distance, there's the hyena. It's not aware, you can see, look at the ears out. Even scratches and yawning, so it's not seeing any of the jackals. I think that's because the jackal's too alert for the hyena. But what we find sometimes, I've noticed that when the adult jackals call, they attract the spotted hyena because they often call at other predators. And I wondered, it's almost in a way to alert the other predators that there are predators in the area. So the hyena comes over, it comes and have a look, it comes to see what's happening. Jackal is one of the predatory animals that pick up on carcasses and dead things quite quickly. But for now, the danger of that hyena is over. You can see he's moving, he's positioning himself slightly over to the right, and that's because he saw the hyena moving off. But unsure what's happening, because I think the one adult was on its way here and then disappear. Monique, some indication of how large this pup is. I'd say it is about 30 centimeters high from the tip of the ear down to its back feet as it's sitting at this point. It's not very big, it's quite small. And you can see those ears are extremely long. So they make up a big part of that. But it's amazing how alert this little thing is. I think at this stage its instinct has just kicked in, it knows. When the parents call, there's a reason for it. So I only heard the one call, I didn't hear the other one respond. So it might be that it just saw that hyena in the distance as it approached. You can see now he's picking up on the scent of something. And it's quite interesting. The wind's actually just shifted a bit. Ooh, something caught its attention in the grass ahead of it. And also communicating, or talking about communication and scent marking. If you have a look right next to the little pup on the ground, there is the scat. I don't know, it might be his. Now, these black-backed jackals, they are well known for marking through their scat. They mark their territories, both male and female defend their territories. And they'll often drop their scat on the oddest places, on top of termite mounds. In this case, this is the den site for this little one, so it makes sense. But also I've noticed on top of other animals' dung, on top of little grass poles. And that's how they mark their own area, their own space. Now, not far from where we are, there is a pretty large clearing. And I know that this pair of jackal has occupied this clearing for quite a while. There's also water further down in the direction that this little jackal's looking. Maybe he's hoping that the adults, or at least one of the parents, maybe the mum, might come and nurse him just before they start moving around for the night. You can see he's looking around. Those ears are moving in all directions. And that's because the sun has gone behind the mountains. There's also quite a bit of clouds in that direction far off, which means that it's only the last little bit of light in this area. The birds are starting to settle in for the night, so there's a lot of different calls moving around at the moment, a lot of different noises drawing his attention. He's almost constantly been looking in that direction since the call. You can see he's trying to see something more. At this point, nothing. If he had a sibling, it probably would have been easier for him to handle the periods of time that it spent on its own. We're going to quickly go to Juma.
Beautiful, everyone. First things, just for the sensitive viewers, I'm so sorry about that, but we come to in this position where when we sit with the Tingana, it happens that he just moved all of a sudden right past our vehicle, ran towards Impala, where it was a distress call, or Impala was kind of a snorting, giving alarm call, where in this area was another female leopard. I couldn't able to identify, but she ran. Since this actually was a lot of noises, also you can now see Tingana right on the corner of the screen on the far left. You can see Tingana's head is just slightly, and he's just watching. It's not his kill. He's right there. So, but of course, there's another female here where we just saw her run when this hyena came in, because we were following on Tingana what you could be heard or seen what is happening in this area. So since we know for sure that hyena, they're a lot stronger, especially here we see more than 3 hyenas. So looking at this fully grown impala, can't be anything left. I'm going to take you quickly to the female leopard in a far distance, as you can see in the movement. Could be maybe Tlalamba or Luna. We're in this actual area of the north of Bavasuk. I can't actually able to identify until I see clearly her face. So she's just gonna wait for a distance, even though she made a kill. But it's quite dangerous for her to get involved herself in this kind of a scene. We understand also the males here, but you can see he's a lot stronger, but he won't compete with this hyena since they're already now dominating in his kill here. I see that. He also ran from the hyena, so this is what now you can able to see what's going on. So I don't think this leopard, even Tingana, would have at least anything to eat right here, unless if this hyena politely move away from this scene. But I don't think they're very serious. As you can see, they're ferocious when it comes to feed. Here there's no order, they would just, as you can see, 2 of them, they're trying to compete. This is what they do. They always follow cats. Always been talk about, whenever there's a hyena around, be politely enough, follow up. You finally find that there is a cat around, could be a lion, can be a leopard. Sometimes in that position, eventually you get to find maybe leopard. So they're very good in tracking, for sure. Here, the sound that you hear, it's all about they want to get enough of that impala. Of course, it looks like it was a fully grown female impala. So one of the, looks like she was pregnant as well. When baby was taken out, and then one of the hyena that was not here was busy finishing it off. That just going to take a moment of a silence, just listen to what a kind of a bone and all the things happening. Sure. It's amazing, otherwise I'll keep quiet forever. But it was very interesting just to hear what they are, kind of like noise they're making, especially when they're getting food around them. They have very strong jaws, hyena. If well, this kill actually happened not even like maybe 15 minutes since we had this impala rain, but now there's nothing there left since hyena involved in this scene. Everything just completely finished. Some piece of the bone there is still left, but in the neck you can see it's still a little bit. Alright, that's all about argument there. The weakest one most likely to be moved off. The stronger one would be able to remain in that kill, since the kill's getting smaller and smaller. So this is what the behavior here it's all about. So I believe she didn't actually have a chance to be able to host this kill. Maybe she was trying to focus on suffocating, because leopards, they do that. And suffocation only take time because the animal have to die completely of being suffocated. Then it looks like they're all worried, but it was actually Tingana right on the other side of us. We can't pan the camera to it because then there's a vehicle there with other guests behind us. So they're doing kind of a behavior right now. This behavior usually when this is maybe two clan meet up. Trust, good afternoon, good evening to your very own live safari here. So you want to know if hyena could make their own kill? Yes, definitely. And they hunt very well. Stealing, that's what they're built for, but they can actually hunt anything about maybe 70%. Majority of the kill they make on their own. And the rest of the time, of course, they can scavenge, just like what happened here. It was a possible chance for them to be able to get into this position because, they listened everywhere where they could. And then every time they hear anything that make a lot of distress sound, if they know what it is, if it was a lion here, they wouldn't take any chances, but they know for sure impalas giving that alarm call. They came close enough to search around what could be the cat that made that kill. Eventually, they made it happen. So there's one of the hyena here trying to urinate, taking this area as theirs. I believe it's theirs as a territory. But it's probably showing a lot of strongest here, since they get poor, weaker cats trying to dominate them. Now they're dominating the leopards. It's more than one leopard in this area. So you see them hunt separately. Hyena, that's how they do. They hunt separately, but they forage. But about 50 yards, could be 100 yards from apart as they move through. During the day, sometimes more likely just to be resting in one of the shade, but keeping on a kind of like listening. Anything they can hear, they're just going to move off and run. As you can see here, they were all three together wherever they were, or separate. But of course, they just respond in the same time because they were not actually far apart into this area. It was so quick. As we get in here, they would just begin, started to feed. We all of a sudden see them moving in here just before they spot these carcass. And we were just, even Tingane was not actually able to see here. He was just trying to find why impala running. I think that female, she also realized there's a lot of problem here. Yeah, I could see another hyena. Probably that's why the behavior is going on. This growl, unique, it's very strange. Behave. So I'm guys, if there's no cars responding into this, I'll probably take another moment here. But if there is a car, then I'm going to open the space for them. And then let me take you over to another live guide.
That is very exciting. It sounds like, to my mind, Tlalamba and her daddy in that sighting. So very interesting developments there. We have not had quite the same afternoon. We stopped here to look at some impala, and lo and behold, look what came out to say hello to us. 3 young, virile waterbuck bulls feeding in the ecotone between the woodland and the clearings that lead down towards the dam at Chitwa. And in the background, a little cicada calls. It's the most gorgeous afternoon, although my ability to find animals has been severely compromised by, well, I don't know what it's been compromised by, other than a lack of talent. But it's been very pleasant to be out here with Niels the Hood, the ganglands of Pretoria East. Watch what I say around him. Find myself on the gang's blacklist. Anyway, these chaps are now as fascinated with us as we are with them, because they've had a day of eating and not much else by way of entertainment. I suppose in many respects it must be quite pleasant to have so little to think about, other than eating a bit of grass and lying down and re-chewing it again, and then perhaps having a drink and maybe avoiding a predator or two. Nice work if you can get it.
Great, everyone. Back into this position of this battle and killing scene. What we see here, Tingana, he managed to run straight away. He just gave himself to this hyena, ran across the car. Eventually, hyena, they all flush off, and he just gets what he could. Just a little bit of, still not much, but he get what he could and ran immediately into one of these weeping wattle, not even far there. So, but hyena, they actually still around in this area. As you can see, it's still a lot of movement. They haven't yet given up. Possibly will be more than one hyena. We've seen 3, 4 already here. There would be more. As you can see how they're looking up into that leopard, but there's no chance they can get into that height. It's not actually far. If it was a lion, we can get that. But with the hyena, they don't actually really very good climb at all. They don't climb trees. They can't actually even stand on their 2 legs right up. They have weak back. Can't do that. So they can't. That meat actually for them, it's out of reach. They're just going to have to wait around here, sniff around and make a lot of noises. And that female, whether it was a loon, I'm not sure. Like I said, she was just going to stick around here and then making sure that I don't think she will get that meat back, unless if Tingana is polite enough to feed and then leave anything behind when he's done. You're probably just gonna come down but yeah, she won't gonna move in this area. She'll stay far, respect the male a lot. Male's a lot stronger. So the scavenging is not only the hyena does that. Leopard, lions, dogs, wild dogs could, cheetah sometimes can as well, steal or pick up, dead body of the animal. But for that, it's not just easy. They have to make sure if they approach somebody's kill, the behavior change. Since they're not sure what killed that, and then all of a sudden you see they're getting closer and closer, maybe sometimes lie down for a distance, making sure that it's still safe. But if it's a lion, then for the leopard or cheetah, they have to immediately vanish. But with the hyenas, well, they're not. They were probably just going to wait around. Oh, Tingana, don't let it go again. You won't get it back. You won't really get it back. So much of hyenas underneath. I believe you, they actually haven't feed enough. Hyena, they still empty stomach. They actually eat too much. For 4 of them against one impala is nothing. So Tingani at this stage, he won't eat. Rosh, indeed, I agree. Very inexperienced cat. Sometimes leopard die from, trying to get their meal back from hyena. The hyenas bite fairly stronger than even for lions. So, like what we've seen there, trying to wrap apart that impalas, it was voracious feed there, what was happening. So it's not a sighting that you always see, especially in this low field where it's covered bushes. Every time you got a sighting, once it's disappeared, it's gone. So we're so lucky to witness this right and slightly open. And they've still got it in Ghana right there with a little bit of a chunk, but it's not actually stapled. So it's going to be careful with that, not letting it down, because hyena's waiting for it, I promise you. And he was aware of that. He saw that happen. There's one hyena still on the bottom. That's why he's growling at. Oh! Do you see that jump of a hyena? If he doesn't drag it slightly further, look at this. Well, yeah, but in climbing, for sure, they don't really climb. They won't get even the trees little curved, but running, take it slightly up, maybe can get reach of that, but otherwise, no. Well, Tingana, you can't see that the meat is below a little bit. You only have that part that he's holding on. But you can't see the rest, how far down it's hanging. Just shame holding on. Alright, so we're just gonna try here to switch to infrared just to get a comfortable for everybody between these species, hyenas and the leopard. How's that, everyone? We can't put the spotlight right now. And if that, it's okay for now for everyone. So he is now taking it easy, Tingana, I can tell you, but he's just balancing it, that kill from one pause, and he's just holding it. Tom, yeah, you're right. I was busy trying to explain that, for them to be able to jump, or to get up to that height, it's not actually far up, but, sometimes when they come from, running, they can try as much as they could, but, it's still out of reach for them. You can see how they're now trying to give up slightly. It's because the knot is slightly further away from them. So this has been actually very good sighting for sure. And I'm not sure what next going to be offered, but like I said, it's actually very rare sighting to actually able to come to this position and able to follow cats and eventually see what they're up to and succeed, take place. So for everyone, we come in the end of the show, unfortunately. So I just want to thank you very much for everyone to take their own time spent watching the live safari. Eventually we come with the right position of the sighting. So I just want to thank you very much. You all stay well. Goodbye. See you guys all tomorrow morning, same time. Goodbye.
My favorite bird has to be the sociable weaver. The enormous nest that they create, their survival tactics to inhabit these harsh and unforgiving environments, and as well as their complex social arrangements is truly remarkable. And the interconnectedness with the ecosystem shows us that we are too. Join me on my next adventure with Wild Earth in the African wild on channel 183 DSTV.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Jumbo, and another very wonderful morning. Welcome to Masai Mara, and we are in the Mara Triangle, and welcome to your morning live safari.